If you have trouble breathing when you're running, then this video is for you. I know when I was running earlier this year, I noticed a huge spike in my heart rate, even if I wasn't going at a very intense pace. And that came down to me having a poor aerobic base plus having very poor breathing habits and patterns. So one thing that helped me is Zone 2 training, but also combining Zone 2 training with these proper breathing patterns and improving the strength of your diaphragm so you can breathe better. Because if you can control your breathing, you'll be able to control your heart rate a lot better, so your heart rate won't spike even at an easy pace. So equipment you're gonna need for these exercises is one balloon. I just have a balloon. You can buy a pack from the dollar store. And then you also need a foam roller or a rolled up towel, as well as a stick, or you can use like a broomstick, or you can even use your couch. You just need something to where it holds your arms down over your head. So let's get started. You're gonna start in a seated position. And the whole idea behind these breathing exercises is that we're trying to not just do belly breathing. You can hear diaphragmatic breathing, also referred to as belly breathing, but it's a lot more than just expanding your belly as you inhale. Diaphragmatic breathing means you're expanding your belly, but you're also expanding your ribs on both sides, and you're expanding your low back. Now, this is referred to as 360 breathing because you're expanding in all directions around your trunk, and that's going to allow for a much better oxygen exchange. So that's really what we're going after today. We're also going after expanding and working on maybe areas where you're not able to get a proper inhale and there's not a lot of movement going on. So a couple areas of restriction, we'll be focusing on that too. So let's get started. Let's start in a seated position. We're starting with 360 breathing. So have your hand on your belly to start, one hand on your chest. And we're just starting here. So the whole idea, you're inhaling through your nose and you're expanding your belly. And as you exhale, the belly comes back in. You should not have any movement with the hand on your chest. So that's why you're here in both positions, just to feel no movement with the hand on top and then movement with the hand below. Let's do about 5 deep breaths here. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose like you're smelling flowers. Exhale through your mouth like you're blowing out candles. Good. Inhale. Exhale. We're just making sure we're not using any accessory muscles like in our chest or in our neck to perform breathing. Like you might see people that run like this with their shoulders up, but we really want to keep this area calm until we've exhausted all other options. So maybe towards the end of the race or the end of a really hard workout. So keep going here. We'll do 3 more. 2 more. Last one. Perfect. All right, now you're going to take your hands and put them on the sides of your ribs here. So I'm making like a C position around with my hands around my ribs. And now you're doing an inhale, exhale, same thing, in through your nose, out through your mouth. But I want you to feel for your ribs expanding and then coming back. Note if they're symmetrical or if one side is not moving as much as the other side. Here we go. Relax your shoulders too. Make sure they're not too tense. Inhale. Exhale. So with your hands on your ribs, practice pushing your ribs into your hands. Good. 4 more. Two more. Last one. Now, when you're breathing, you're not taking a huge inhale, huge exhale throughout each stride. So it's not going to be moving as much, but you still should have movement. So the whole idea is there still should be movement in your ribs, there still should be movement in your belly and in your back. All right, go ahead and grab your balloon. Now, I will say, maybe even a month, it might have been 2 months ago, I wanted to really improve my breathing and I could not blow up this balloon. Now, I have a history of asthma, but I like to say my lungs suck. And That's not an excuse having asthma. I've grown out of it, and I really should have paid attention to this earlier on in my running career, but being able to blow up the balloon is important because it helps to strengthen your diaphragm, and just accepting the fact that your lungs suck, you can still work on your breathing. You can still strengthen your diaphragm. It's just like any other muscle. So we're gonna blow up the balloon. Now, if you cannot blow up the balloon, what I want you to do is if you have someone nearby that can blow up the balloon, you're gonna modify with this technique. So they'll blow it up about halfway. And all you're gonna do, pinch the end of the balloon, and you're just gonna practice blowing it up from halfway to full. And release air. And repeat. So there's not as much resistance, which makes it a little bit easier versus starting from nothing with the balloon. So if that's you, you know you can't blow up a balloon, start it at halfway, and then go to full, release air, and you'll keep going back and forth. So release air, and then repeat. Now if you can blow up a balloon, let's practice together. Now I want you to have a tall posture. Make sure your ribs are stacked over your hips. You're not leaning back or anything like that. Shoulders are relaxed, and we're just gonna practice blowing up the balloon. Put one hand on your stomach, and you'll be able to feel your diaphragm working. This is something I want you to practice every day. You can do 5 to 10 breaths with the balloon, whether you're doing the modification or blowing it up from nothing. You can do it while you're watching TV. Just practice blowing up the balloon, and make sure you have your hand on your stomach, because you should be able to feel your diaphragm working, feel movement going on in your stomach versus it coming from your shoulders. So that's the first exercise for you to do, 5 to 10 breaths each day with the balloon until you feel a lot more comfortable, you feel a lot more stronger. All right, go ahead and grab your foam roller for the next one. We're going into a modified child's pose. So sit with your heels, sit your butt on your heels, and you're gonna wrap this foam roller. We're just gonna hug it as we lean forward, and you can have your arms out. So it's sitting right under my chest just to make a little bit more of a expansion in the thoracic spine or mid-back, so you're rounding more versus without it. So from this position here, I'm just tucking my head. You're gonna have a deep inhale, so breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, and as you do this, you should be able to feel the expansion from your mid-back and your low back. So we're just sitting here, inhale, and exhale. Good. Inhale and exhale. So we're reinforcing more movement in the thoracic spine and in the lumbar spine with this position. This might be an area of restriction, so that's why we want to work on it. Shoulders stay relaxed. Inhale and exhale. Now when you do it this time, I want you to try to expand your belly, expand your ribs, and expand your low back and mid back. Good, 3 more. And last one. Perfect. All right, set the foam roller to the side. Now what I want you to do, you're gonna come into a tall kneeling on one leg, other leg comes out to the side. Your arm is going to come down the side of your thigh as you bring the other arm up overhead. So you should feel a stretch in the side of your trunk, the side of your hip. Now from this position, take the hand that's on your leg and place it on your ribs here, and like your low back on the side. What I want you to do, inhale through your nose and exhale. You should feel movement in your hand. Try to really reinforce the movement in your hand. You should feel your ribs expanding. Good. Good, try to really push this area into your hand. Last 2. And last 1. Good, quick switch, other side. Just to feel any comparison. So like if you have an injury on one side, you might not be getting as much movement and might not be getting as much expansion on that side. So let's give it a try. Good. You might not feel like it can't go out as far if you're injured on that side. Let's do 2 more. Last 1. Perfect. All right, last exercise that you have, you're going to take your foam roller or your rolled up towel, place it on your mat and grab your stick. Now let me show you the setup here. So I want you to pretend like you're going to lean over this foam roller or rolled up towel to work on thoracic mobility. Now all you're going to do here, take the stick overhead, and from this position, I want you to not, when you bring that stick overhead, make sure your ribs aren't tilting up. You're still keeping everything neutral. You're just bringing them a little bit into that thoracic extension. And I want you to now work on expanding your ribs on both sides and your belly. So here we go. You should see the rise and fall from your belly. Good. Last 1. Good. Go ahead and bring that foam roller down. Same thing. Last 2. Last 1. Perfect. All right. You are all done. So if you felt like there maybe wasn't as much expansion on one side, I recommend going through this class again just to really reinforce it, especially if you're injured, because you need that mobility when you're breathing for optimal oxygen exchange, because you don't want to only be breathing basically using one side, because the other side, maybe the muscles are a little bit more tighter on that side, and therefore they're not moving as well. So make sure you go through it and keep practicing it. So then when you're running, the carryover is that you're able to use your diaphragm more, go into that 360 breathing when you're running versus feeling like 1, you're huffing and puffing all the time. 2, you're using your chest to run. So when you're running, a good sign that you're using your chest is 1, your shoulders are up here, but also you're seeing this movement with your ribs. Your ribs are flaring out, and then your chest is rising and falling. There's a lot of upper body movement going on. That's a good sign you're not using your diaphragm like you should. So when you're breathing, I like to take the running belt that I have and put it basically right on my skin or right around my belly button. And I'll make it pretty tight, so it's pretty uncomfortable if I want to be working on this. Not super tight, but you get the idea. And all I'm trying to do is I feel the belt, so I feel how it's tight. And my goal is to push my belly, the sides, and my back into my belt as I'm breathing. Now, again, you're not taking a deep inhale and exhale when you're running, so this isn't like, you're not going to be like, this is not ideal when you're running. So it is going to be a little bit quicker. You're not going to have as much movement versus the exercises we just went over, but you will be able to feel the expansion and the rise and fall pushing your skin into the belt. So that's just a good way to reinforce what you already learned with the 360 breathing, but keep practicing it because it's just going to get better. Again, the diaphragm is just like any other muscle, and you can strengthen it and it can become weaker, especially if you don't use it. So make sure you go through this class again, and I'll see you next time.